everybody. My name is Nici Macdonald. I am the HOD of Certification and Standards at the Financial Planning Institute. I am also a certified financial planner and a member of FISA in the terms of a financial practitioner of South Africa. Now, one of the things that are very close to my heart is estate planning. And in South Africa, we have a serious issue with people who do not draft wills before they pass away. Given that September is Wills Month, we thought it would be interesting to make a video just to educate our consumers on why it is extremely important to have your will in place, even though it is one of the most difficult things you can do. And we know that South Africans don't want to talk about difficult things like death and what will happen if I pass away. But the problem is if you do not speak about it and you do not put a plan in place before you pass away, it is very, very difficult for your family and for your loved ones who stay behind to actually manage the paperwork and the estate after you have passed away. Obviously, the bigger your estate is, the more difficult it can get. But I just want to make a comment to say that even if you only have a property, a car, a bank account, an investment, a few assets on a farm, things like livestock, a few sheep, a business, you might run your own business in a sole prop. All of these things will be impacted if you are not here anymore. And it is extremely important to determine beforehand what you want to happen to those assets. Now let's talk about what happens if you do not have a will. So let's say you pass away without a will. What will happen is that the regulations in the Intestate Succession Act in South Africa will kick in. Now, what does the Intestate Succession Act determine? It determines where your assets go should you not have a will. For example, if you only have a spouse, all your assets, 100% of your assets will go to your spouse. Now, spouse means that you are married in terms of either the Marriage Act, Civil Union Act, or that you are married in terms of customary law. That is what a spouse is. Living together is not a spouse. So it will be very difficult for that person to claim. There are some court cases that might give you some chance of getting something, but you will have to go to court. It'll take very long and there will be lots of fights and it will cost you a lot of money. So a spouse is someone who is married in terms of one of the marriage acts in South Africa. Then if you've got a spouse and you have children, what will happen is, let's say you have a spouse that you're married to and you've got 2 minor children born from this marriage and 1 born from a previous marriage. So let's say there are 3 kids. What will happen should you die intestate is that the estate will be basically split into 4. So if you have got, let's say, R1 million worth of assets in your estate, let's say it's a house and a car and a bit of money in the bank, what will happen is that that estate will get split into 4. A third, or the 3 parts will each go to each of the kids, and the 4th part will go to the spouse. If that part is smaller than 125,000, that will be topped up so that the spouse can inherit the bigger amount. But what it boils down to is that your only assets, which might be a fixed property, might have to be sold in order to transfer all the assets to all the different people that are supposed to get it. So there are definitely implications should you die intestate. What happens if you do not have a spouse, you do not have any children? Well, then that inheritance goes up. What we do is it looks like a little fountain. So it goes to the spouses and the kids first. But if there are no spouses and kids, it flows up into the fountain and it then goes to your parents, half. And should one of your parents have passed away, it will go to their kids. Which means, and what we've seen in the past, is that half brothers and sisters that you haven't seen in years might inherit something. and those type of things. So it can be extremely difficult should you not have a plan in place. Now, what does a will do? If your will is drafted perfectly, it is signed in terms of the formalities as stated in the Wills Act. So if we can talk about that a bit, your will has to be drafted. So it has to be in writing. You will have to sign it on every page as the testator. You will also have to have two independent witnesses. And when I say independent, it should be someone that is not going to get any benefit from the will. So not your spouse, not your children, not your mother or father. Independent people should sign, two independent people should sign that will. And what we say is on every page as well, just to make sure that it is a valid document. And you should date it and you should keep it in a safe place. What will happen after you pass away? This document will be handed to the Master of the High Court. If they accept it, because of the formalities that was adhered to, that will, or the requirements and the legacies and the whatever you wrote into that will be what will happen to your estate. It can make it a lot easier for the people to stay behind, specifically if they know what's going to happen. The inheritance of minors will not have to go to the Guardian's Fund, because the Guardian's Fund at the Master's Office looks after the inheritance that is received by minors. And it can happen that if you don't have a will, that inheritance will have to be liquidated. So if their inheritance is, for example, sitting in something like a fixed property, that property will have to be sold in order to liquidate the funds. To put it into the Guardian's Fund, and they can then access this at age 18, and the people who look after your minor children will be able to access a certain amount of it before then. But it is quite an intricate process. There are ways and means to deal with this. You can use something that we call a testamentary trust to deal with your minor kids' inheritance. Something else that you have to think about when you draft your will is all the different scenarios that can play out. And once again, this is difficult things to talk about, and we know people don't like it, but it is very important. It is important to speak about when you pass away. What do you want to happen to your assets? But then it's also important to speak about if you and your spouse should pass away at the same time, what is going to happen to your children? We know for a fact that if you put guardians in the will, that the social workers who will deal with the issue of guardianship after death looks at the stipulations in the will, because it is your wishes that are in there, and they take it very seriously. So make sure that you speak about all these important things. Make sure that you make a plan. From practice, we have seen that it is very, very difficult if someone walks into your office after someone has passed away and there is no will, and what they thought were going to happen is not what actually plays out. It is not the type of legacy you want to leave for the people you love. So how do I go about drafting a will? Speak to your financial advisor or financial planner. Go and have a look on www.fpimymoney123 and go to find a financial planner. You can find someone to help you with this. During the week or during Wills Month, I know that there are some people who will draft wills for free. Some lawyers and some banks I know are involved in this. If you do not have a financial planner and financial advisor, speak to your bank. They have got options. Speak to your lawyer and go and do it today. Remember that your will also needs to be updated from time to time because your situation changes. Don't be scared to talk about it. It is much more difficult for someone who is left behind to deal with all of this than it would be for you to draft your will now and get everything in place. So please visit www.fpimymoney123 for more information on wills, or contact us mymoney123@fpi.co.za to get more information. We can also do workshops for you on wills and the importance of wills, budget, savings, and all those type of things. contact us today and organize a free workshop on consumer education. Thank you very much.